Hey hobbyists! Alright, I was doing some work on my Stampede 4x4 and I'm getting ready to do some upgrades and some things to this truck, and I got looking at this thing and I'm not crazy about how this thing looks. I don't like how tall they've got this body sitting. I think they wanted to do that so that the overall height of the truck stays pretty, competitive with a lot of the other trucks out there. But the fact is, I mean, look at the gap. I mean, look at that. That's horrible. I mean, it looks like they've taken, let's say this was a real truck. It seriously looks like they have put like a 4-inch body lift on it and then not bothered to cover the gap between the frame and the body. They didn't bother to raise the bumpers to match the body of the truck. I mean, it just kind of looks horrible. Thankfully, I think there's something we can do. And I'm going to try and do this without spending any money. Now, you can get a kit to do this. And if this, I don't know, seems kind of scary, maybe you don't want to try and tackle this, and maybe it's above your pay grade as far as Dremel work or something like that, that's understandable. And I do sympathize. I may even screw this up. I don't know. But thankfully, if you do mess this up, we have an alternative. We can get a different kit from Jconcepts. What we're going to do is we're going to drop these posts right here. These posts give the additional lift on the body. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut them off and re-drill them so that we can it'll drop the body down. Now, Jconcepts makes a nice little kit that is 4 replacement posts plus screws, I believe, and it's about $20. It's a good quality plastic. I mean, they're not junk. Jconcepts makes some nice stuff. But so if I screw this up, all hope is not lost. We can still get that kit. I'm just hoping to do this without spending a dime. We want to do that for free if we can. So what I'm going to do is cut here and let's get started tearing this thing apart. All right, our first step is to remove the main body mount from the truck. This is a 2mm screw. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing to the rear. And set the truck out of the way. Now we've got our body mount pieces. We're going to start with we'll start with the front. Notice these, I'm going to turn this up. This is the front body mount. This is the rear. If you notice, those body posts are basically the same length, front and rear, okay? That's nice because what we're going to do is we're going to use a caliper. We're going to measure the length that we want to remove and mark these, and we're going to do them all the same. So basically, I'm going to show you one, and then I'll cut the camera and finish them all, and we'll see what the truck looks like once we get them all done. We're going to cut the same amount from the front and rear. So let's take one of these off. Again, 2mm. I've got the first one done to make sure that it was going to work. So, and I had to do a couple of things. Let me show you really quick with this second one, okay? You got to remove the second one. Well, for you it'll be the first one. All right. Now pull this screw out. There's 2 problems with doing it this way. By cutting down the stock mount, there is a little notch right there on the end. You see that little bump of plastic right here on the end of the body mount right there? What that does is lines up with the stock body mount for pin alignment, basically. There's a little groove in there, And that groove fits nicely over that little spot. That way your pin is lined up constantly the way you need it to be. When we do this modification, you have to cut that little pin, that little notch off. You have to cut that off flat. Therefore, you're going to have to set your pin alignment yourself, okay? Now that may be right there where some of you want to quit and just order the Jconcepts body kit, and that's, you know, very well okay. You know, I thought about it myself, but I thought, I'll keep going. The other thing you've got to do, when you cut your body mount off, this is the 1/2 inch plastic that I cut off the first mount, you'll notice the hole does not go all the way up. You're going to have to drill a new hole to thread this body mount back on after you get done cutting it. Now you can do that up front. Use a 332 bit, 332 so that you can thread, it will cut the threads. Okay, if you go bigger than that, you're not going to be able to cut the threads. The screw's going to just push right in. All right, so we got to drill this body mount out. Now you can do this after you cut it or before. This one I obviously did after I cut it. This one I'm going to do before. And so we're going to mark the drill bit to see how deep we are. Mark it right there. All right, now looks like we are in that far. So we've got to go probably to about here, I'd say, on the drill bit. That'll push us almost all the way up. So let's see how far we go here. Just do it slow, steady, and try to keep this thing straight. Now let's see where we're at on our marks. Pretty close, pretty close. Just a little more. I'd say that's probably pretty good. All right, now that we've got that drilled, we can go ahead and make our mark on this and then go cut it off. Mark that right there. This marker may not show up on camera. However you want to cut this, whether you want to use a hacksaw or a Dremel tool, I've got a nice bandsaw that I like to use. You can do this with a Dremel tool though. Chalk this up in a vise and then run the Dremel tool around, try to keep the blade straight. You could use an X-Acto saw, whatever you want. Most hobbyists have a Dremel tool. So go ahead and cut this thing off and make sure that you use your safety glasses, guys. Eyes are more important than any RC car, okay? I'll be back. All right, there we are. Holes in there, ready to be threaded in. Cut looks nice, pretty well flat, ready to put together. Now, what we have to do is we've got to cut that little notch off, okay? Because we can't thread this down flat with that little notch there. So I'm going to use a pair of flush cuts. This is kind of a nice model building. You could grind that off. You could use an X-Acto knife, cut it off, whatever you want to do. This just makes a nice clean cut and they're off. Now it's time to thread this thing in. Do not use a power driver on this. You need to feel if these threads bottom out in the body mount, okay? If you're bottoming out before it's tight, you've got to add a little more, you've got to drill it a little bit more. So go slow and make sure you don't strip this thing out. If you strip this thing out, you're going to have to buy the other parts. Looks pretty good. There we go. And they're pretty well tight. I mean, the body mount's not too tough, but they don't turn. These don't turn too easily at all. I mean, it will be possible that they'll twist when you're maybe out running in the field, but it's probably not too likely as long as you get them tight enough. Not so tight you strip them out though. You got to be careful. That's a careful step. All right, let's do the body mounts, or let's do the rear ones and see what the truck looks like. All right, well, here's our finished product. Whole lot nicer, I think. I mean, this turned out really good. You can still see the chassis here, but they don't have that, there's not that big gap that there was, and I like the way that turned out. Take a look at it from the front. With the body sitting lower, the bumper, I mean, it looks a lot more natural, I think. And there's not gonna be any real serious rubbing issues. It looks good. I like the way that turned out, I really do. Pretty nice. Not the easiest project to do. It's not the simplest modifications to make. It's not too bad. I think the key is just go slow, take your time, be patient, and that way you won't mess that up too bad. If you rush that, you're probably going to mess up those body mounts and you'll have to buy the other parts. But that's all I've got for this one. Getting ready to do a little bit more to this. I'm getting ready for some more power, so we'll probably tackle a brushless system or something next. But happy with the way that turned out. Anyway, that's all I got for you this time. We'll see you next time.